base to support the city's development, that will invest in critical infrastructure in partnership with the private sector, and that economic development with a special focus on Erotropolis, SMMEs, and job creation. That also, lastly, good and ethical and effective government in discharging our work will remain key. We announce our initiatives and establish the Service Delivery War Room, a multi-departmental platform designed to enhance coordination and tackling service delivery issues head-on. We roll out the Merali Zimbizo and ensure that there is communication, something that has not been happening in the last 2.5 years. We've been to various communities in Tembisa, in Etwatwa, mainly in our townships. And today we are almost 90 days since we've been in office, and we have achieved remarkable successes. In the area of waste, we've unveiled some of the landfill sites to actually ensure that the issue of waste disposal is supported with the proper waste management infrastructure. We've unveiled waste trucks, 13 compactor waste trucks, completing our full order of 21 new trucks added onto our fleet. We are proud with some of the projects that we've been able to really unveil. For Slora's Multi-Purpose Center, we've given the transformer to our communities in Guatemala. In the area of economic development, we've launched a Fetzatlala agricultural support program designed to empower emerging black farmers and cooperatives. Moreover, some of the efforts, is our commitment to sustainable economic development and job creation, ensuring that we have a brighter future for all the residents of Ekurhuleni. We take pride in the recently awards that the city has actually received. In Salga, we did the 2 awards for reducing unauthorized, irregular, fruitless, and wasteful expenditure through implementing effective consequence management as we were closing this financial year. And these are demonstrations that we are committed and to maintaining clean and accountable institution as guided by the Municipal Finance Management Act and other legislation. On other infrastructure maintenance, the infrastructure development has been a cornerstone of our efforts. We have made significant progress in the construction of roads, in electrifying informal settlements, in installing high mast in key areas in our city. Issues around safety and accessibility remain our priority, and the MMC of Finance will outline some of the other infrastructure intervention as pronounced in the recently approved budget. Of course, we've got certain issues that remains a worry, that while we still continue to provide clean water, ensuring the blue drop status, building our infrastructure to support the provision of water services. But the lack of communication, in particular from rainwater during the recent plan maintenance, has been an unpleasant professional experience from us, and we think this is one of the areas that we must continue to ensure that we improve on as we engage with various stakeholders. We take note of some of the improved relations with ESCOM, and we think these are critical stakeholders that they should be able to pull their part in order to ensure that we give sustainable services to our communities. We're also focused on strengthening our city's financial stability and ensure that there is a proper revenue enhancement project. Our thriving regional economy remains key to our financial sustainability efforts. And again, we do want other partners because ESCOM matter of down payment just recently is a matter that we're escalating through the IGR. Because for every investment that you bring into the city, we need to have a conversation on the insistence of putting forward a down payment. But we think through a better management and increased capital spending, we're on path to ensure that we've got a sustainable financial health, and this is important to ensure that we support our ongoing and future projects. But there are challenges, and our journey has not been without obstacles. However, we're encouraged by the support we've been receiving from the multi-party, in council. The various parties, they've really been giving support to the mayor and the mayoral committee to ensure that we provide oversight and we give a strategic direction to our municipalities. Managing coalition partners and ensuring cooperation from all members of the mayoral committee has been challenging. However, through performance agreements, a strategic planning session, and open communication, we're fostering a cohesive and collaborative working environment. We believe that there are all the relevant laws and legislation that empowers the executive mayor to ensure that we're able to ensure that there is a proper culture, there's a proper discipline, amongst the members of the mayoral committee, so that we prioritize giving services to our people in a non-partisan manner. So the story of Ekurhuleni is one of continued growth, and the ANC-led coalition government is committed to stabilizing our city's finances and enhancing service delivery and realizing the dream of the Africa's first metropolis. We are dedicated to upholding the highest standards of good governance and working tirelessly to meet the needs of our communities. And as we move forward, we will continue to engage our residents, address their concerns, and build a prosperous and sustainable future for all. I want to thank you, the members of the media, but I want to introduce to yourselves, MMC Jongizizwe Dlabati, who has been recently sworn in. He will be responsible for, finance, all aspects of finance, including revenue enhancement, cash management, areas around supply chain, areas around expenditure management, and really ensuring that we do turn around the corner and that all the mayoral pronouncements are supported. We believe that with this member of the team, we will achieve much greater alignment and ensure that we speak in one voice and that we pull in one direction to the betterment of services to our people. He will share with us some of the highlights from the recently approved budget. Thank you very much.
Now, firstly, greetings to the executive mayor. And I must really express my sincere gratitude to the EM for his appointment on this important responsibility. And greetings to members of the media. The executive mayor has requested me to just touch on two areas. One, just at the high level, the budget outlook, but importantly, to clarify what then becomes the priority insofar as the finance portfolio is concerned. So I must say that it's an honor to present, therefore, some of the highlights of the 2024-2025 budget. And I must say that the budget was developed through a consultation with our communities and, most importantly, extensive engagement with the various multi-party caucuses in council, as the executive mayor indicated that we have been enjoying relative support from the multi-party, and it was important for us to therefore engage them extensively. And of course, it's a product rather of proper planning through our budget steering committee. This recovery budget also reflects what the executive mayor has pronounced in the State of the City address, in that we must continue to ensure that we discharge our local government mandate, in particular the provision of sustainable and quality services, to the extent that we expand services in areas where they do not have. And in the midst of presenting the budget, we appreciated that we needed to navigate through the economic challenges. As you may appreciate that the economy has not grown sufficiently. Unemployment remains our challenge, especially post the COVID reality. And it has really constrained our ability to generate the much needed revenue. So the city of Ekurhuleni, like many other municipalities, is therefore not immune from these economic challenges. The financial situation to many of our townships and cities is strained by various economic challenges, which have ultimately affected the disposable income of our households, making them difficult really to honor their services. So in terms of the revenue and the expenditure framework, the budget that was approved, it presented a total revenue of about 60 billion, which is an increase from a revised 2023-2024 budget of about 55 billion. In terms of our expenditures, you will also appreciate that expenditures and the income are relatively at the same level. It is also about 60 billion for this financial year, up from 55 billion as well. And this includes significant investment in our infrastructure, social services, as well as community development. And despite the substantial investment we are making, we are equally anticipating through the budget what we call a positive variance of about 601 million, because it is important for the city to always have reserves in an instant where there are difficulties of generating revenue, to tap from those reserves to continue to fund the services. Just at the high level on the infrastructure development, there is a commitment, as the Executive Mayor has pronounced in the 6 pillars, that one of the things that we must do is to heavily invest in the infrastructure development. So about 475 million will be allocated towards roads repairs and maintenance, about 420 million towards upgrading and maintenance of our stormwater drainages. And we continue to invest in our street lights and high mast lights. I'm sure you realize as you drive around that there is a need for us to resuscitate some of the damaged infrastructure in that regard. On matters of energy, we view energy as a critical infrastructure in our space, particularly to power our homes, businesses, and public services. Now, in ensuring a stable and reliable energy supply, it is therefore essential for us to invest in that particular infrastructure. And we do appreciate the fact that there's been some stability insofar as dealing with the load shedding, more than 100 days of no load shedding. But we do have a challenge as a city to ensure that we therefore invest heavily in the distribution infrastructure so that as much as there is no load shedding, but we continue to distribute as an institution. Hence, we will continue to invest in the distribution infrastructure. The budget has allocated about 552 million towards the energy department to focus on various projects that are aimed at stabilizing our energy distribution around the Volcano substation, the Russell Road substation, as well as the Pumulong substation, just to mention a few projects. But there are many of the projects that we're embarking on. Additionally, the budget, or rather the electrification program, will be allocated 1.2 billion over the remainder of the MTREF period. Coming into roads and stormwater department, we have allocated around 263 million, Executive Mayor, towards the department to deal with some of the projects, which includes amongst us others the Xhakaza master plan, which has been allocated about 72 million to implement the phases of the master plan in Xhakaza, the Bila Street network, about 10 million, Mayfield Extension 67 and 12, about 10 million as well. But the statement does capture some of the projects that we are funding. Now, access to clean water and effective sanitation services is also fundamental in the public health as well as the quality of life. In that regard, the approved budget has allocated about 590 million for this financial year to deal with, amongst others, the Russell Road Reservoir, the Pomona Sewer, the Nigel Bulk Water Line, the Rondebelt Outflow Sewer, as well as the Tembisa Sewer at about 10 million. Moving to transport, we have also allocated 367 million in this financial year, really to complete some of the projects that are related to phase 1, as well as extending the BRT route in phase 1B as well as 1C. On matters of human settlement, it is our view that adequate housing is a cornerstone of our social stability and well-being. Our Human Settlement Department is committed to providing safe, affordable and housing, as well as to reduce the backlog of homelessness. In this regard, the approved budget has allocated 492 million in this financial year to deal with, amongst others, the Batchley North Extension 4 project, the Leopold Mega Project, the Daggafontein Mega Project, as well as to support the Palm Ridge Extension 9 projects, which is aimed at completing about 300 service stands, because those are some of the priorities that the Executive Mayor has articulated. Moving to the tariffs, you will appreciate that we had to really consider what should be affordable tariffs in the midst of the difficulties. But however, some of the tariffs are tariffs that are outside our control, in particular electricity as well as water. But the overall outlook of our tariffs, where we have a direct control, is such that those tariffs have been kept in line or below the CPI that was forecasted to be at about 4.9%. Executive Mayor, just to articulate some of the 5 priorities that the Executive Mayor has signed off after the consultation, so that there is clarity in terms of what the portfolio will be focusing on. The first priority, we will deal with the issue of recovering as well as rebuilding a strong financial position of the city. You would know that for some time we have raised concern about the financial position of the city. We are now at the helm to ensure that we bring about financial sustainability. Part of what we want to really do around this objective is to encourage and foster the culture of payment by our households as well as the business as the users of municipal services. You know, it is important that before households pay for a DSTV compact, they start by paying for the services of the municipalities, because these are the things that you use on a daily basis. So we want to propel the culture of payment by everyone. In essence, every household must make a contribution towards the payment of services. You may not necessarily service the full or the current account, but our expectation is that those that who can service the full account, they must do so. But those that are constrained, they must make a contribution. There must be no household in Ekurhuleni that passes a month without throwing in something into the coffers. And of course, we want to deal with the debt management so that there are early warnings to those that are owing us money, to be informed on time to make their contribution. And the mayor was very clear that we must resuscitate some of the revenue enhancement programs and to bring in new revenue into the system. So those are some of the areas we are going to focus on, including a consideration to give some incentives to the business that is owing us. There are about the top 1,000 businesses that are owing us money. And we believe that part of the incentive that we can give to the business is to offset the interest on the capital amount and allow them to pay us the capital amount through an arrangement, to the extent that if there are businesses that are able to pay us, for instance, half of the amount that they owe upfront from the capital minus the interest, we are also considering giving an additional discount in that manner. So this is a way in which we are trying really to meet those that are owing us halfway, including a consideration on the debt write-off for the households whose balances are sitting on the days that are way above 120 days. So we do have debtors that are owing us money. And I said to the executive mayor, probably we need to then move with speed to offer that debt relief. You know that we have been speaking about the 75% debt write-off, but that will be a conditional debt write-off, and we will articulate in greater detail. But in principle, we are moving towards that direction so that we give a relief to our communities, but to reboot the culture of correct payment into the system. And the last aspect in this regard is to use our own municipal asset to generate new revenue in partnership with the private sector. The second priority will be to deal with the supply chain management as well as expenditure management. In this regard, we are going to focus on making sure that our supply chain management processes continue to mature and that they are compliant to the fullest, meaning that we should prevent any instances of wasteful, irregular, and fruitless expenditure in our system. We also want to tighten controls in that regard so that the goods and services that we are procuring, we procure them economically at the prices that are reasonable and not bloated prices, but to confine our goods and services on matters that are essential for us to provide services. We also want to tighten the issue of the payment system so that we address the challenges of small businesses not being paid on time. And that ties up also with issues of cash flow management. And the other aspect is to deal with the issue of contract management in the system. The third priority that the mayor has endorsed is around the budget management. And what do we mean? We simply mean that at all times we must have a budget that is compliant and a budget that is funded. Hence, our first priority is around the revenue enhancement and the revenue management. But we also want to have a budget that is responsive and developmental in nature. The mayor has pronounced priorities. There's a GDS, but also there's community needs that needs to be funded. So the type of a budget that we must have is a responsive and a developmental budget, which we must monitor on a regular basis in terms of the related expenditure. The fourth priority that we have agreed to with the executive mayor is around the financial discipline. Given the fact that we are operating in a tight financial environment, there is a need for us to enforce prudent financial management in the system. Equally to deal with issues of cash flow management, and the mayor was very clear in the briefing that we do also need to bring those that have expertise in the field of cash flow management. And within the department itself, we'll then have to look and pull a team that is going to pay attention in the area of managing our cash flow. The issue of value for money is part of the priority under the financial discipline, so that every cent that we are spending, we are able to justify the fact that we are drawing value for money. We are not going to spend as an institution for the sake of spending, but we are going to spend on the basis of drawing value for money. And of course, the mayor was clear to say that we must minimize cost overruns. All our projects, as much as they must be implemented within scope, time, but equally they must be implemented within the cost so that we avoid any additional overruns, in particular our capital projects. And of course, to deal with maladministration within our finance environment. So issues of corruption were very clear that those that must be dealt with immediately with determination so that it does not become a culture that becomes a habit in the institution. And the last priority it's to deal with the improvement of the audit performance. As you know that We have built systems that produced back-to-back clean audits. Unfortunately, with the recent audit, we regressed as an institution. And the mayor was also very clear that we need to regain our space of getting clean audits to the extent that our systems are able to sustain the clean audit. So what we are going to focus on is to make sure that there are acceptable financial reporting and accounting in the system to ensure that we strengthen our sound financial governance that prevents any material contraventions that may make us not to achieve the clean audit, but also to sustain our internal controls and critically to continue to resuscitate and improve our relationship with the Auditor General South Africa. You might be aware of a debacle that took place prior to the issuing of the audit that produced a regression. So we don't believe that we really should be fighting with institutions that seeks to strengthen democracy and to strengthen accountability. And we are doing all of this purely because of the commitment to good governance, ethical leadership, and really to make sure that we restore confidence into our communities insofar as the management of the public purse is concerned. So thank you very much, Executive Mayor.
Thank you very much, Executive Mayor and MMC. Colleagues, we are going to open now for questions.